Hello everyone. So today I am here to do a video about the National Book Award, which I know a lot of people are doing at the moment. So the National Book Award just recently came out with all of their finalists, or I should say with their long lists in all of the categories, and a lot of people are doing reaction videos, and I'm here to do one as well. But the one difference is you may or may not know that the National Book Award actually has a section for translated literature, and that is the section that I'm going to be reacting to today. So they select 10 books that have been translated into English, and that consists of their long list, and then they will eventually come up with a short list of, I believe, 5. So whittle it down in half and then pick a winner from that. So I'm going to go over the 10 books that made the long list today, and I'll read just the briefest of synopses and then kind of give you my brief reaction of what I think of them, if there's something that I'm interested in reading or not. There are a few that I have already heard of and are more well known, and then there are a few that I have never heard of before. Also, something to note is that most of these books are by indie publishers, which is another great thing about reading translated literature, is a lot of them are going to be published by an indie, and there are only a couple that are published by one of the bigger kind of publishers or houses. So we will go ahead and dive in. I'll put the pictures up for the books so you can see them, and we'll go from there. So the first one is called Ibn Arabi's Small Death, and this is by Mohammed Hassan Alwan, and it's translated from the Arabic by William M. Hutchins. And this is published by the Center for Middle Eastern Studies at the University of Texas in Austin. And this book is sort of a historical fiction, and it is about the life of Ibn Arabi. And Ibn Arabi was kind of like, what would you say, a mystic? He's a Sufi master and philosopher. He is a poet and a mystic, and he traveled around a bunch of places, kind of on a physical and spiritual discovery journey. And this book is a first-person perspective from his life, and it's sort of like a biography in a sense, like a fictional biography. So yeah, that's what this book is about. I'm not sure about this one. I'm not sure if this is going to be one that I read. I don't read a lot of historical fiction from the get-go, and even less when it's kind of like a fictional biography. So I don't know, I might wait to see the reviews of this one and see what happens, but at this point in time, I'm not 100% sold on it. The next one might be familiar for people who paid attention to the International Booker Prize, and that is A New Name, Septology 6 through 7, and this is by John Fosse. It's translated from the Norwegian by Damien Searles, and this is published by Transit Books. And like I said earlier, if you're familiar with the International Booker, this was shortlisted and I think shortlisted as well, in addition to being longlisted. And you can also tell by the name that this is not the first book in this series. So there are, I think, 2 other volumes in this series. This is the 3rd. So I haven't read the first 2, so there's that right off the bat. I have heard great things about this series, but let me tell you what this one is about. So this is about an aging painter and a widower who lives on the west coast of Norway, and basically he only has a few friends, a neighbor, and then a local fisherman and a gallerist that live in the same area as him. And then he basically is struggling with alcoholism, and then he meets this doppelganger, and that serves as a framing device essentially to live out different versions of his life. So that's what the series is about as a whole, and this one I think kind of shows maybe the end of those two narratives, I'm assuming. It does sound like a really interesting premise. I like the idea of having a doppelganger and like letting that be an exploration of an alternative life. It seems interesting. I don't know if I want to read 3 books in a trilogy. I might be willing to pick up the first one, but this one does sound fairly interesting to me, so I might pick up the first one and then see how it goes. But yeah, that is a new name. The next one is Seasons of Purgatory, and this is by Shahryar Mandanapur, I'm gonna say, and it's translated from the Persian by Sarah Khalili, and this is published by Bellevue Literary Press. And if I'm looking this way, it's because my laptop is over here, so I'm looking at the laptop to read all these out. So this one I have seen the cover of, and I do love the cover, but I have never read what the synopsis is. So this says that this is a fantastical and visceral merge of the tales of tender desire and collective violence. I like those buzzwords that are coming out. And it's about the boredom and brutality of war, the clash of modern urban life and rural traditions. And this author was banned from publication in Iran, which is where they are from. And it talks about a variety of perspectives, kind of young, old, male, female, free people and prisoners, and it's supposed to be a social critique on Iran. So I'm curious about this one. This one seems most interesting to me thus far. So this one might be one that I end up picking up. And again, the cover is gorgeous, so that's always a bonus when you like the cover. So that is that one. The next one is Cabogo, and this is by Scholastique Mukasonga, translated from the French by Marc Polizzotti, and published by Archipelago Books. You can hear the question at the end of every pronunciation. I'll try to stop doing that. But yeah, this one is one that I have never heard of before. So I'm going to be learning what it is about along with you. And this one says that there are women who are sitting around a fire drinking a honeyed brew, and there are a few of them that are not going to sleep. And so one of them, who is a storyteller, starts telling one of the old legends of the hillside, and it's about church missionaries who have basically done everything to keep their power in the area. So it sounds like this is going to be about colonialism. I do believe that this might have some magical realism in it, which doesn't always work for me, but sometimes it does. And it says that at the twisted roots of this story, there is secrets and wonder. And then it says, can Cabogo really summon the rain? So it sounds interesting enough. I like stories about colonialism and the issues with colonialism and like the deep impact and ramifications that it has for like generations and generations to come. So this one seems like it might be one that I pick up. Let me know if you have heard anything about this one. The next one is one that I have heard of before, and the cover is also stunning. And this is Jawbone, and it's by Monica Ojeda, and it's translated from the Spanish by Sarah Booker, and this is published by Coffee House Press. And this one says, was desire something like being possessed by a nightmare? That's the question and the little blurb up top. So this one I know is about 2 sisters. I can't remember their names. And basically they're inseparable. And then one of them ends up dead, I believe, in like a deserted cabin. And they had, I guess, seemingly been held hostage by one of their professors. So it's about the other one who is kind of bringing us back up to the timeline in which that happens and showing us how this came to be. I do think it has some darker tones, this one, that maybe the sisters have a secret that has ultimately led to this. This one sounds very intriguing. I definitely want to pick this one up. This is one that I've thought about getting for a while. It references that there's concepts drawn from like H.P. Lovecraft and Herman Melville in this book, so that also sounds intriguing to me. That wouldn't be two that I would naturally put together. So this one I definitely will be picking up at some point, and I'm excited about that one. All right, the next one is another one that I've thought about picking up many times and I've heard several people review and really love, and that is The Employees by Olga Ravn, and this is translated from the Danish by Martin Aitken and published by New Directions Publishing. I'm very interested in New Directions. I've read several things by them in the past and I really like them. And I should say there are two publishers on here that have two books that are nominated, and New Directions is one of them. We will get to the other one later. So this one, I believe, is a sci-fi, if I'm remembering correctly, and it's like a sci-fi that is about workplace culture. So the blurb at the very top says, Ravn asks us to envision a future in which the machines, rather than the humans that create and maintain them, lead the workers' revolution. So this one was also shortlisted for the International Booker Prize. It apparently was also shortlisted for the Ursula K. Le Guin Prize, which is one for sci-fi. And this is a sci-fi voyage that talks about an original existential nightmare. That's what it says. That sounds very intriguing. So I'm very curious about this one. I've wanted to pick it up for a while, even before it was nominated for this, so I probably will be picking this one up as well. I do like the UK cover of this more than the US cover, so I might try to import it, but we shall see. The next one is 7 Empty Houses, and this is a story collection by Samantha Schweblin, and this is translated from the Spanish by Megan McDowell, who translates most of her works into English. And this is published by Riverhead Books, which is an imprint of Penguin Random House. Penguin Random House, aka Riverhead, the imprint, has 2 books also nominated on this list. And Samantha Schweblin is probably one of the biggest names on here, other than John Fosse and one other person we'll get to later. So it's probably less of a surprise that they're here. So this book, like I said, is a short story collection, and I believe 7 Empty Houses is the title of one of the stories. And that's not a reference to the amount of stories, but who knows. So this says, basically it has a metaphor for a house, and it says that some rooms in the house are devoid of love or life or furniture. So this is exploring themes of maybe like loss potentially. And this says that in these visionary tales, something always creeps back in. A ghost, a fight, trespassers, a list of things to do before you die, a child's first encounter with a dark choice, or the fallibility of parents. All of that sounds interesting. I do think this is another one that I am interested in picking up. I have heard good reviews of this so far. I haven't read Samantha Schweblin before. I've been very interested in reading her. I think Fever Dream might be one of her most popular, but she has a couple other things as well that have been translated into English. They typically tend to be pretty dark, and that intrigues me. So this is another one I'm probably going to pick up as well. All right, on to the next one. And this is another one that I have never heard of previous to this, and that is Where You Come From. And this is by Sasa Stanise. Oof, I probably butchered that. That one I know I butchered. And this is translated from the German by Damien Searles. And this is published by Tin House Books, at least in the US. And Tin House Books is close by to me. They are in Oregon and I'm in Washington. So this one has an interesting cover. There's like little collage of like fractured images. And this one says, in August 1992, which is the year I was born, so maybe that's kismet. A boy and his mother flee the war in Yugoslavia and arrive in Germany. 6 months later, the boy's father joins them, bringing a brown suitcase, insomnia, and a scar on his thigh. Where You Come From is a novel about this family whose world is uprooted and remade by war, their history, their life before the conflict, and the years that followed their escape as they created a new life in a new country. This one sounds pretty interesting. I don't tend to love books about war, but I do like books about immigration, and this one might lean more on immigration than the actual conflict, so we shall see. But yeah, somewhat interested in this one. If anybody has heard about this one or read it, even better, let me know what you thought. And then we have 2 more to go. Both of these are maybe some of the bigger names, bigger titles, and I have heard of both of them. The first one is Scattered All Over the Earth by Yoko Tawada, and this is translated from the Japanese by Margaret Mitsutani. And this is the other one that is published by New Directions. And this one has a very stunning cover. Love the bright kind of neon mixing colors. And this one is a dystopian novel. And I think it's also a cli-fi, like dystopian novel. And it's also addressing the refugee crisis that's viewed through kind of 2 different perspectives. So I think we're following 2 different perspectives in the novel. And this says, welcome to the not too distant future. Japan, having vanished from the face of the earth, is now remembered as the land of sushi. Haruko, a former citizen of a climate refugee, has a job teaching immigrant children in Denmark, and her invented language, Panska, which is Pan-Scandinavian, homemade language, no country to stay in, 3 countries I experienced, insufficient in space in brain, so made new language, homemade language. Okay, I was like, what the hell is happening? That was the new language. So it says, as she searches for anyone who can still speak her mother tongue, Haruko soon makes new friends. Her troupe travels to France, Stockholm, and other places, and in a series of mesmerizing scenes encounters an umami cooking competition, a dead whale, an ultra-nationalist, Kakuzo robots, and much more, each more vivid than the last. Okay, sounds bizarre. I am somewhat intrigued. This one makes me a little bit more nervous. I might want to see if anybody has reviewed this before I pick it up, but seems interesting enough. I'm not closed off to it, that's for sure. All right, and the last one here, we have our good old gal, Olga Tokarczuk, and this is The Books of Jacob, also shortlisted for the National Book Award this year. This baby is thick, and that intimidates me about it because it's also historical fiction, which I don't love, like I said earlier. Anyway, let me tell you the translator. So this is translated from the Polish by Jennifer Croft, and this is another one that is out from Riverhead, which again is an imprint of Penguin Random House. So this one is another one similar to the first one that is historical fiction, but it's like a fictional biography. So this says, in the mid-18th century, as new ideas and unrest begin to sweep the continent, a young Jew of mysterious origin arrives in a village in Poland. Before long, he changed not only his name, but his persona, and his name is Jacob Frank. He's very charismatic, and he has kind of a fevered following. And then in the decade to come, so I guess it follows him for a decade, he traverses and has like lots of different ups and downs with his disciples. And then he's kind of revered as a messiah, and it wreaks havoc on the conventional order. The other interesting thing about this book is that, as like a nod to being written in Hebrew, the Books of Jacob is kind of like, what is the word, paginated? Is that when you say like about the pages? Paginated in reverse, so it begins on the last page, like the number of the last page is like, it's almost 1,000 pages, so I think it's like 900 something, and then it goes descending in the number of pages and ends on page 1. Interesting structure. I don't know about this one. It's huge, and it's historical fiction, so this one might not be the one for me. I've heard people love it, and mostly it's people who already love Olga Tokarczuk, so who knows? But that is the list, my friends. So let me know if you are interested in any of these books. Let me know if you've read any of them and what you thought if you have. I am interested in a few of them, probably about half of them I might end up picking up. And also let me know if you follow the National Book Award at all. I know lots of people follow the kind of literature originally published in English version of the prize. But let me know if you followed the translated section of this prize before. I don't hear a lot of people talk about it on BookTube, so I'm curious to see if there's a community out there that follows this. So I will see you in the next one, friends. Bye.